Admiral Jack Morrison walked across the bridge of the UES Horizon. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. The ship was humanity's first vessel, built for traveling between stars. It had taken 3 years to build, and another 3 months. To reach this place in space, the stars looked different here. Jack had been in space for 20 years, but he had never been this far from Earth. The closest star to their home was just a tiny dot behind them now. Ahead was empty space, but their instruments said something big was coming. "Admiral, we're getting a signal," said Lieutenant Greg Murphy from his station. He was young, maybe 25, and this was his first deep space mission. His hands shook a little as he worked the controls. "Put it on the main screen," Jack said. He straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. This was the moment humanity had been waiting for, since they first looked up at the stars. The screen flickered and showed empty space. Then something appeared that made everyone on the bridge stop talking. It was huge, maybe 10 times bigger than their ship. The thing looked like it was made of blue crystal that glowed with its own light. It had no sharp edges, just smooth curves that seemed to flow like water. "My God," whispered Captain Lisa Barnes. She was standing next to Jack, holding a tablet with all the things they wanted to say to the aliens. Lisa had studied alien life for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The crystal ship moved closer without making any sound. Jack could see smaller lights moving inside it, like fireflies in a jar. Then a voice came through their speakers. It sounded like music, but also like ice cracking. "Greetings, humans. I am Ambassador Zephyr of the Talharian Collective. We have been waiting." Jack stepped forward. "This is Admiral Jack Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We're honored to meet you. Yes, we know who you are. We've been watching your species for many years. You have finally developed the ability to travel between stars. This means you are ready." "Ready for what?" Lisa asked. "Ready to join the galaxy, of course." "There are many species in space, Captain Barnes. Over 400 that belong to our collective. Soon humanity will be 401. The words sounded friendly, but something in the alien's voice made Jack feel cold. "We're very interested in joining the galactic community. Earth has much to offer." "Yes, you do. Your species is strong and works hard. You will be very useful." A door opened in the side of the alien ship. Light poured out, and Jack could see figures moving inside. They looked tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow like their ship. "Please, come aboard. We have much to discuss." Jack looked at Lisa, and then at the 6 soldiers who had come with them. "Just the captain and myself. The others stay here." "As you wish." The walk to the alien ship felt like a dream. They floated through space in a bubble of light that kept the air around them. Jack tried not to think about how easily the aliens could kill them right now if they wanted to. Inside the alien ship, everything was smooth and curved. The walls glowed with soft blue light, and Jack could not see any doors or windows. Ambassador Zephyr was waiting for them in a large room. The alien was tall, maybe 8 feet, with long arms and a face that looked almost human, but not quite. Right. Its eyes were too big and completely black. "Welcome to our vessel. Please sit." Chairs grew out of the floor like plants. Jack and Lisa sat down carefully. The chairs were surprisingly comfortable. "You said you've been watching us, Lisa." "Set for how long? Since your species learned to make fire?" "We watch all species as they develop. When they reach a certain level, we make contact." "Why?" Jack asked. "Because the galaxy is a dangerous place. There are species that would destroy you just for fun. Others would steal your world and kill everyone on it. The collective protects its members." "That sounds wonderful," Lisa said. "What do we need to do?" Ambassador Zephyr made a sound that might have been laughter. "Simply agree to our standard integration protocol. Every species must follow the same rules." A sheet of light appeared in the air between them. Words began to appear on it, written in perfect English. Jack started reading. Most of it was boring stuff about trade and sharing technology, but then he saw something that made his blood turn cold. "Wait," he said, pointing at the light. "This section here. It says we have to give you 40% of our population." "What does that mean?" "Exactly what it says, Admiral. 40% of all humans will be moved to other worlds in the collective. They will work where they are needed most. Work doing what? Lisa asked. Her voice was very quiet. Mining, farming, construction, manufacturing. Whatever needs to be done. Do not worry. They will be well cared for. Jack stood up so fast his chair almost fell over. You're talking about slavery. I do not know this word. Please explain. Taking people from their homes and forcing them to work without pay. That's slavery, and humans don't do that anymore. Ambassador Zephyr's big black eyes seemed to get even bigger. You misunderstand, Admiral. It's not slavery. This is how the collective works. Everyone contributes what they can. Some species are better at fighting, so they become soldiers. Others are good at thinking, so they become scientists. Humans are strong and work hard, so most of you will do. Physical labor, most of us. Jack's voice was getting louder. What about the other 60%? They will stay on Earth to maintain your world and produce more humans. The collective always needs more workers. Lisa made a small sound like she was going to be sick. You're talking about breeding us like animals? I prefer to think of it as careful management of resources. Your species has great potential, but you need guidance. Left alone, humans fight each other and waste their energy. Under collective management, you will be much more efficient. Jack felt anger building in his chest like a fire. And if we say no, why would you say no? The collective offers protection, technology, and purpose. Every species eventually sees the wisdom in joining us. But what if we don't? Ambassador Zephyr was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was colder than before. That would be most unfortunate. The galaxy is full of dangers for species that try to stand alone. Pirates, warlords, natural disasters. So many things can happen to a world with only one planet. Is that a threat? It is a fact. Admiral Morrison, Captain Barnes, you seem to think you have a choice in this matter. You do not. The only choice is whether humanity joins the collective willingly or by force. We prefer willing members, but the result is the same either way. Jack looked at Lisa. She was staring at the alien with a look of pure hatred. He had never seen her look like that before. How many species have chosen to join by force? She asked. Does it matter? They are all productive members of the collective now. Their homeworlds are safe, and their people are cared for. How many? Demanded. Approximately half. The other half saw reason quickly. Jack stood up and walked to the wall, put his hand on the smooth surface, and felt it warm under his touch. We need time to think about this. And of course, you have 10 of your days to decide. We'll assume you have chosen the difficult path. And then what happens? And our fleet arrives. 350 ships, Admiral. Each one much larger than this vessel. Your species has never fought a war in space. This would not be a battle. It would be an extermination followed by a collection of survivors. Jack turned around and looked at the alien. You know what, Ambassador? I think I can give you our answer right now. Excellent. I knew humans were intelligent. We refuse. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. Ambassador Zephyr's smooth features became sharp and angry. You refuse? That's right. Humanity will never accept slavery, no matter what you call it. We've fought wars to end slavery. On our own world, we'll fight wars to prevent it from coming back. You cannot win, Admiral. No species has ever defeated the collective. Jack smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Ambassador, let me tell you something about humans. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've gotten very good at it. And the one thing that makes us fight hardest is when someone tries to take our freedom. Your confidence is admirable, but foolish. Maybe, but here's the thing you don't understand. Every species you've conquered before had something to lose. Cities, art, history, culture. We have all that too, but we have something else. We have a choice. We can lose everything and still win as long as we stay free. That makes no sense. It will. Ambassador Zephyr stood up. The alien was much taller than Jack had thought, and its shadow fell across both humans. You are making a terrible mistake, Admiral Morrison. When our fleet arrives, we will show no mercy. Neither will we, Jack said. The trip back to their ship was quiet. Once they were back on the horizon, Jack called all his officers to the bridge. "Set course for Earth," he ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir, what happened over there?" asked Lieutenant Murphy. Jack looked at the alien ship on the screen. It was already moving away, probably going to call its fleet. "We just declared war on the most powerful force in the galaxy." "Sir, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them to start building ships. As many as they can, as fast as they can. We have maybe 6 months before the real war starts." As the horizon turned toward home, Morrison wondered if he had just signed humanity's death warrant. The crystal towers of Cerinthia reached high into the purple sky. 2 suns hung above the alien city, casting strange shadows that moved like living things. Inside the tallest tower, the High Council of the Talharian Collective was meeting. For the first time in 50 years, High Counselor Viren stood at the center of the Great Hall. She was old, even by Talharian standards. Her crystal skin had grown darker over the centuries, and her black eyes held the wisdom of someone who had ruled over 400 different species. Around her, 12 other counselors sat in floating chairs that glowed with soft light. "The humans have refused our offer," Viren said. Her voice echoed off the crystal walls. "Ambassador Zephyr reports that they called our integration protocol slavery." Counselor Kethmer laughed. The sound was like glass breaking in a winter storm. He was younger than Viren, but he had led more conquest campaigns than any other Talharian alive. Slavery. What a strange word. Do they call it slavery when they train their animals to work for them? "Perhaps they do not understand," said Counselor Dinara. She was the youngest member of the council, only 300 years old. Many species panic when they first learn about integration. "Remember the Vorthon? They said similar things." "The Vorthon were different," Kethmer replied. "They had fought wars before. They understood strength. These humans have never even had a real space battle." Viren activated a display in the center of the room. It showed a slowly spinning blue and green world. Earth looked so small and peaceful. From space. "Tell us what we know about this species." Counselor Hexstar, the collective's chief intelligence officer, stepped forward. His job was to study new species before they were contacted. Humans are remarkably aggressive for such a young species. They have been fighting wars on their world for their entire recorded history. "Fighting wars with what?" asked Dinara. "Primitive. Weapons, metal blades, chemical explosives, kinetic projectiles. They only recently developed nuclear weapons, and they have used them exactly twice in warfare." "How long ago was recently?" Viren asked. 80 of their years. They seem to have realized that nuclear weapons could destroy their entire world, so they stopped using them in wars. Kethmer waved a long, thin hand. "This proves they are not as aggressive as they appear. When faced with real danger, they choose peace." "That is not entirely accurate," Hexstar continued. "They continued fighting wars. They simply avoided using their most destructive weapons. In the last century alone, they have fought over 200 armed conflicts." 200? Dinara sounded surprised on one world. "Yes, they seem incapable of avoiding conflict with each other. They fight over resources, territory, religion, politics, and sometimes for no clear reason at all." Viren studied the image of Earth, yet they united to build spaceships and explore beyond their world. How is this possible if they fight constantly? Appear to unite only when faced with external threats. When they are not fighting outsiders, they fight each other. Counselor Mextos, who rarely spoke during meetings, leaned forward. "This could be useful. If they fight among themselves, we could support one group against another. Divide and conquer." "That strategy has been considered," Hexstar said. "However, our analysts believe it would be more difficult than it appears. Human loyalty patterns are complex. They can hate each other completely, but the moment an outside force threatens them, they work together. Like pack animals," Kethmer said with disgust. "In some ways, yes, but more dangerous than any pack animal we have encountered. They have survived on a world that seems designed to kill them. Natural disasters, disease, climate changes that would destroy most species. Yet their population continues to grow." Viren walked to the great window that looked out over their capital city. Millions of beings from hundreds of different worlds worked in the crystal buildings below. Some were Talharian, but most were from conquered species. They all work together now, all part of the great collective. How many worlds do the humans control? She asked. One Hexstar replied. Just their homeworld. They have small settlements on 2 other bodies in their system, but nothing that could be called a colony. Population: approximately 8 billion. Military strength? It's difficult to assess accurately. They have no unified military command. Each political division maintains its own forces. Total military personnel appears to be around 200 million. 200 million soldiers? Dinara asked. That seems like a large number for one world. It is, but they are spread across hundreds of separate military organizations. Many of these groups have been enemies in the past. I do not believe they could coordinate effectively against an external threat. Kethmer stood up from his floating chair. What about their space combat capabilities? Very limited. They have built approximately 50 vessels capable of interplanetary travel. Most are designed for exploration or transport, not warfare. Their weapons technology is centuries behind ours. You ever fought a space battle? What? Have no experience with void warfare, orbital bombardment, or fleet tactics. Viren turned back to the council. It seems clear that these humans do not understand what they have chosen.
How long?
Since our last major conquest, the Krikstar homeworld fell 97 years ago, Kethmer said. He had personally led that campaign. They resisted for almost 2 years. Very determined fighters. And where are the Krikstar now? Working in the mining facilities on Corvex Prime, their warrior culture has been redirected toward useful labor. The younger generations have fully integrated into collective society. Krikstar had a space fleet, Hexstar added. 1,000 ships when we first encountered them. They'd fought and won wars against other species. They understood what defeat meant, but they still lost, Dinara observed. Every species loses eventually, Viren said. The collective has never been defeated because we do not fight fair. We do not seek glorious battles or honorable victories. We seek results. She activated another display. This one showed a massive fleet of Talharian ships moving through space like a school of deadly fish. How many ships can we assemble for? The human conquest? 450 are available immediately, Kethmer replied. If we need more, we could have 800 within 30 days. That will not be necessary. The humans have perhaps 50 ships, most of which are not even armed. We will bring 350 vessels. That should be enough to demonstrate the futility of resistance. What if they surrender immediately? Asked Dinara. Then we proceed with standard integration protocols. 40% of their population will be relocated to colonies that need workers. The remainder will stay on Earth to maintain infrastructure and population replacement. And if they fight, Kethmer's crystal features grew sharp with anticipation. Then we will crush their primitive fleet, destroy their military installations, and take what survivors we need. The choice is theirs. Viren looked around the council chamber. Are there any objections to this course of action? Silence filled the great hall. The councilors had heard similar discussions hundreds of times before. The result was always the same. Very well. Kethmer, you will command the fleet. Choose your best ships and most experienced captains. It will be an honor, High Counselor. K-Star continue monitoring human communications. I want to know if they are attempting to prepare defenses, of course. Dinara, begin preparing integration. Facilities for 8 billion humans. Standard protocols. The young counselor nodded. Should we prepare for significant resistance casualties? Plan for 10% losses during the initial occupation? Humans appear to be stubborn, but they are not stupid. Once they see our fleet, most will surrender rather than die pointlessly. As the council meeting ended, the members dispersed to begin their tasks. Only Viren remained in the great hall, staring out at the city below in her long life. She had seen the integration of dozens of species. Some had begged for mercy. Others had raged against their fate. A few had tried to bargain or negotiate for better terms, but in the end, they all became part of the collective. The humans would be no different. Their defiance was just the anger of a child who did not understand how the adult world worked. Once they saw the size of the fleet coming for them, they would realize their mistake. Viren had lived through 4 centuries of conquest. She had seen worlds burn and civilizations fall. She had watched proud species become grateful servants. Of the collective, humans would join that long list of victories. What she did not know, what none of the Talharians could understand, was that humans were different in one crucial way. Every other species the collective had conquered had something they valued more than freedom. Humans did not. In 6 months, High Counselor Viren would learn what that difference meant. But on this day, surrounded by the crystal towers of her perfect city, she felt only the quiet confidence of someone who had never lost a war. The fleet would launch in 30 days. The humans would have 6 months to realize their mistake. After that, Earth would become just another collective world. Humanity would become just another collective species. At least that was the plan. The emergency session of the United Earth Assembly had been going on for 6 hours. President Daniel Carter stood at the podium, looking out at representatives from every nation on Earth. The Great Hall in New York had never been so quiet. Every person in the room knew that the next few minutes would decide the fate of humanity. "Fellow humans," President Carter began, his voice carrying clearly through the speakers. 3 days ago, Admiral Morrison returned from our first contact with an alien species. What he learned changes everything. The president activated a large screen behind him. It showed the recording that Admiral Morrison had made during his meeting with Ambassador Zephyr. The alien's cold voice filled the room as it explained the integration protocol. 40% of all humans will be moved to other worlds in the collective. They will work where they are needed most. A few people in the assembly gasped. Most had already heard the news, but seeing it again made it feel more real. "The aliens have given us 6 months to accept their terms," Carter continued. "If we refuse, they will send a fleet of 350 ships to force us to comply." The representative from Germany stood up. "Mr. President, surely there must be some way to negotiate. Perhaps we could offer them something else instead of our people." Ambassador Zephyr made it clear that this was not a negotiation. Every species in their collective follows the same rules. They see no reason why humans should be different. "What about the United Nations Security Council?" asked the representative. "From Japan, have they made a decision?" "The Security Council met yesterday. The vote was unanimous." Carter paused and looked around the room. "We refuse to accept slavery, no matter what they call it." The hall erupted in noise. Some people cheered. Others shouted questions. Few looked terrified. Carter waited for the room to get quiet again. "Mr. President," called out the representative from Brazil, "they have hundreds of ships. They have maybe 50, and most of those are not even warships." "That's true, which is why we need to start building more ships right now. And not just ships. We need weapons, defenses, and most importantly, we need to work together like we never have before." In the Pentagon, General Patricia Kelly was already working on the biggest military mobilization in human history. The war room had been turned into a command center that never slept. Officers from every branch of the military worked at computer terminals, while large screens showed ship construction sites around the world. "General, the Chinese have agreed to share their new fusion engine designs," reported Colonel Ben Walker. "The Russians are opening their weapon laboratories to our scientists. Even the smallest countries are sending us everything they have." Patricia looked at the numbers on her main screen. "How many ships can we build in 6 months? If we use every shipyard on Earth and convert the civilian space stations, maybe 2,000. But most of them will be small fighters, not big warships." "What about weapons?" That's where Dr. Rodriguez comes in. Dr. Alan Rodriguez had been working on theoretical weapons for 20 years. His laboratory in Nevada had been a quiet place where he studied ideas that seemed impossible. Now it was the busiest place on Earth. Scientists from every country had come to help him turn his theories into real weapons. "The aliens have energy shields and advanced materials," Rodriguez explained to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. "But they've been fighting the same way for thousands of years. They expect us to meet them in space and have a normal battle." "What do you have in mind?" asked General Kelly. "Everything they don't expect. First, we're going to turn our entire solar system into a weapon." He activated a holographic display of the solar system. The asteroid belt has millions of rocks floating in space. We're going to put engines and guidance systems on the biggest ones. When the aliens arrive, they'll think they're just asteroids. Brilliant, said Admiral Carson, the head of the Navy. What else? Kinetic weapons. Can't match their energy technology, but we can accelerate chunks of metal to nearly the speed of light. At that velocity, even a small piece of debris can destroy a battleship. How do we deliver these weapons? That's the beautiful part. We don't need to get close to them. We fire the weapons from the other side of the solar system and let physics do the work. In orbit around Earth, Commander Nina Foster was overseeing the construction of humanity's new fleet. She had been chosen to lead the Space Combat Division because she understood something that most military officers did not. Space warfare would be completely different from any war humans had ever fought. The aliens will expect us to form up in neat formations and exchange fire like old sailing ships, she explained to her captains. Instead, we're going to hit them from every direction at once. Captain Tony Martinez, one of Foster's best officers, studied the tactical displays. Commander, even if we build 2,000 ships, they'll still outnumber us and outgun us. How do we win? We don't fight their kind of war. We fight our kind of war. Humans have been killing each other for thousands of years. We've gotten very good at it. Foster activated a training simulation, showed human ships moving in complex patterns, striking quickly, and then disappearing before the enemy could respond. We're going to teach them about guerrilla warfare. Hit-and-run attacks, ambushes. We'll make them chase us through the asteroid belt, where we have weapons waiting. What about defending Earth? That's the last resort. If they get past our outer defenses, we have surprises waiting for them here too. Meanwhile, Dr. Sarah Kim was working on humanity's most desperate weapon. In a secret facility under the Rocky Mountains, she led a team of physicists who were trying to do something that had never been done before. The aliens use quantum communication to coordinate their fleets, she explained to President Carter during a video call. If we can disrupt that communication, their ships won't be able to work together. Is that possible? We think so, but we'll only get one chance. The weapon will destroy itself when it's used, and the aliens will know how to defend against it after that. Do whatever you need to do. Around the world, every human civilization was contributing to the war effort. In Africa, mining operations worked day and night to extract metals for ship construction. In Asia, factories that had made cars and computers were now making weapons and armor. In Europe, the world's best engineers designed new types of spacecraft that could be built quickly and cheaply. But perhaps the most important work was happening in schools and universities. Professor Helen Davis at MIT was training the first generation of space combat pilots. These young men and women would have to learn in 6 months what normally took years to master. The aliens have been fighting in space for millennia, she told her students. They know every trick, every strategy, every tactic that's ever been used. We're going to do things that have never been tried before. One of her students, a young woman named Kate Johnson, raised her hand. Professor, what if we lose? The question hung in the air for a moment. Everyone in the room was thinking the same thing. Then we lose fighting, Professor Davis replied. But I don't think we're going to lose. Do you know why? Why? Because they think they know us. They've studied our history, our technology, our military capabilities. They think we're just another species that will panic when faced with superior force. She walked to the window and looked up at the sky. During the day, it was hard to see the construction happening in orbit, but she knew it was there. Of people working around the clock to build humanity's first real space fleet. But they don't understand the most important thing about humans. We don't just fight for ourselves. We fight for our children, our families, our freedom. We fight for the idea that no one has the right to make slaves of other people. She turned back to the class. They've conquered 400 species, but they've never fought a species that would rather die than give up their freedom. As the months passed, the preparations continued. Every day brought new ships, new weapons, new defenses. The aliens had given humanity 6 months to prepare, thinking it would make no difference. They were about to learn that 6 months was enough time for humans to turn their entire solar system into a fortress. The work was hard and the hours were long. But all across Earth, people worked with a determination that surprised even themselves. They were not just building ships and weapons. They were building humanity's future. In 2 months, the alien fleet would arrive. When it did, it would find that humans had done something no other species had ever managed. They had prepared not just to resist, but to win. Fleet Commander Zarthik stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory. He was looking at the star that humans called the Sun. After 6 months of travel, the Talharian invasion fleet had finally reached the edge of Earth's solar system. "Status. Report," he ordered. 350 ships in formation, Commander," replied his tactical officer, Sub-Commander Nexara. "All vessels report ready for combat operations." Zarthik nodded. This was his 48th conquest. Overseeing the subjugation of dozens of species, the humans would be no different from the rest. What do our sensors detect? Primitive defensive positions around their homeworld?
Approximately
2,000 small craft, most appearing to be converted civilian vessels. No significant orbital defenses. No long-range weapon platforms. Exactly as expected. Begin standard bombardment pattern. Target their orbital facilities first, then move to planetary bombardment sites. Once their infrastructure is destroyed, they will surrender. Alien fleet moved forward in perfect formation. Each ship was massive, some over 2 miles long. Their crystal hulls gleamed in the sunlight as they advanced toward Earth. Zarthik felt the familiar satisfaction of an easy victory approaching. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet," reported the communications officer. It threw. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of a human ship. A woman in a blue uniform stood in the center. Zarthik recognized her from the intelligence reports. Commander Nina Foster, leader of the Human Space Combat Division. "This is Commander Foster of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You have entered our solar system without permission. Leave now, or face the consequences." Zarthik almost laughed. "Commander Foster, I am Fleet Commander Zarthik of the Talharian Collective. You have had 6 months to accept our generous offer. Since you have chosen to resist, we will now demonstrate the futility of your position. Surrender now, and casualties will be minimal." "We don't surrender," Foster replied. "And you're about to learn why that's a problem for you." The transmission ended. Zarthik shook his head. "Another species that must learn the hard way. Begin the attack." The first wave of Talharian ships moved forward, their energy weapons charging. But before they could fire, something unexpected happened. Space around the alien fleet suddenly filled with streaks of light moving faster than anything Zarthik had ever seen. The streaks came from everywhere at once, from directions where his sensors had detected nothing. "What are those?" he demanded.
unknown projectiles moving at 97% light speed,"
Nexara replied, her voice tight with surprise. Impact in 3 seconds. The kinetic rounds struck 3 collective dreadnoughts before anyone could react. The massive ships simply disappeared, turned into expanding clouds of superheated gas. The rounds had hit with the force of small stars. "Impossible," Zarthik whispered. Their technology readings indicated primitive kinetic weapons. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the asteroid belt," the sensor operator called out. "It appears the humans have weaponized the entire field." What the Talharians had thought were harmless space rocks suddenly came alive. Hundreds of asteroids ignited their hidden engines and began accelerating toward the alien fleet. Each one was the size of a building and moved with deadly purpose. "Evasive maneuvers," Zarthik ordered. "All ships, scatter formation." But the collective had not expected this kind of attack. Their ships were built for traditional space warfare, not for dodging weaponized asteroids. 12 more vessels were destroyed in the first minute of combat. "Sir, the human ships are attacking," Nexara reported. On the tactical display, Zarthik watched as 2,000 human vessels swarmed toward his fleet. But they were not attacking like any military force he had ever seen. Instead of forming battle lines, they came from every direction at once, moving in unpredictable patterns. "Target the largest human ships," he ordered. "Sir, there are no large Ships. They all appear to be fighters or light cruisers. Zarthik stared at the display. Every human vessel was small and fast. As his weapons tried to target them, they disappeared behind asteroids or changed direction suddenly. When his ships tried to pursue, the humans led them into fields of hidden weapons. "This is not how space warfare works," he muttered. The humans had apparently never read the manual on proper space combat. They attacked in small groups, struck quickly, and vanished before the collective could respond. When Talharian ships moved to intercept them, they found nothing but empty space and more hidden weapons. "Commander, we're losing ships faster than we can count them," Nexara reported. "The humans are using some kind of coordinated swarm tactics." On the UES Defiance, Commander Foster watched the battle unfold on her tactical screens. The months of preparation were paying off. Every asteroid had been carefully positioned. Every weapon had been precisely aimed. The aliens were fighting exactly the kind of battle they expected. "All units, initiate Protocol Darwin," she ordered. Protocol Darwin was humanity's most desperate and effective tactic. Instead of trying to win a traditional space battle, human pilots would ram their ships into enemy vessels at maximum speed. But just before impact, the crews would be teleported to safety using quantum transport technology that Dr. Rodriguez's team had developed. The first ramming attack caught the aliens completely off guard. A human cruiser, moving at tremendous speed, struck a collective battleship dead center. The explosion destroyed both vessels, but the human crew materialized safely aboard a nearby rescue ship. "They're sacrificing their ships as weapons," Zarthik realized with growing horror. What kind of species does this? The answer came over the communication channels, as human pilots transmitted their final messages before impact. "For Earth, remember humanity. See you on the other side. Freedom or death." Each ramming attack was preceded by these defiant calls. The aliens began to understand that they were not fighting a normal military force. They were fighting people who would rather die than accept slavery. "Sir, we've lost over 100 ships," Nexara reported. "Recommend immediate withdrawal." "Withdrawal?" Zarthik could not believe what he was hearing. "The collective does not retreat. Sir, at this rate of loss, we'll be destroyed within hours." Zarthik looked at his tactical display. The neat formation of his fleet had been shattered. Collective. Ships were scattered across the solar system, many of them damaged or destroyed. The humans continued their relentless attacks, appearing from nowhere and vanishing like ghosts. "How many human ships have we destroyed?" "Approximately 400, sir." "And how many do they have left?" "Our estimates show at least 1,500. Still active. For the first time in his long military career, Zarthik felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Eternal Glory's sister ship, the Divine Purpose," the communications officer reported. "Put it through." The screen showed Captain Mordic, one of Zarthik's most experienced officers. Behind him, his bridge was filled with smoke and sparks flew from damaged equipment. "Commander, we cannot continue this battle. The humans are using tactics we've never encountered. They're not fighting to win territory or capture ships. Fighting to destroy us completely. Captain, we have superior technology and firepower. Technology means nothing when the enemy refuses to fight the way we expect. They turn our strengths into weaknesses. When we form up to attack, they scatter. When we pursue, they lead us into traps. When we try to defend, they attack from directions we never thought possible." Another ramming attack struck a nearby collective ship. The explosion lit up space like a new star. "Sir," Nexara said quietly, "perhaps we should consider a strategic withdrawal." Zarthik was about to refuse when his sensor operator spoke up. "Sir, we're detecting a new energy signature approaching from the direction of Earth." "What is it?" "Unknown." "It's massive, whatever it is." The UES Retribution came out of Earth's shadow like an avenging angel. It was humanity's largest warship, built in secret during the 6 months of preparation. But more importantly, it carried Dr. Kim's quantum disruption weapon. "This is Captain Rick Turner of the Human Liberation Fleet," came a voice over the communication. "Channels. Telharian Fleet, You have exactly 60 seconds to begin withdrawing from our solar system. After that, we will demonstrate why declaring war on humanity was the biggest mistake your species has ever made. Zarthik activated his fleets. Communication system. All ships, target that vessel. M 20 collective ships turned their weapons toward the retribution. Energy beams and plasma cannons fired in unison. But the human ship's shields held and it continued advancing. 30 seconds, Turner announced. Sir, recommend we accept their terms, Nexara said urgently. The collective does not negotiate with primitives. 10 seconds. The quantum disruption weapon fired. It was invisible to sensors, but its effect was immediate and devastating. Every collective ship in the solar system suddenly lost communication with the others. Their coordination systems failed. Their tactical networks went down. For the first time in their history, Talharian ships were fighting alone. What happened? To our communications, Zarthik demanded. All quantum links are down, sir. We're completely isolated. High Counselor Viren stood in the communication center of Serenthia, staring at the empty holographic display.
Ow.
For 3 days, she had been waiting for news from Fleet Commander Zarthik. For 3 days, there had been nothing but silence. Still. No contact from the invasion fleet? She asked. None, High Counselor, replied the technician. All quantum communication links to the Sol system have been severed. We cannot reach any of our ships. Viren felt something cold growing in her chest. In 2,000 years of collective expansion, no fleet had ever gone completely silent. Even during the worst battles, at least some ships always survived to report back. Send a reconnaissance probe to the human system. I want to know what happened. The probe would take 2 weeks to reach Earth and return. 2 weeks of waiting to learn the fate of 350 collective ships. Meanwhile, news of the silence was spreading through the galaxy faster than anyone had expected. The collective had many enemies, species that had been conquered and enslaved over the centuries. They had all been waiting for any sign that the mighty Talharians could be defeated. On the mining world of Kethprim, a Vexani worker named Gorix stopped his excavation machine and looked up at the sky. The news had come through hidden communication, channels that the collective worked hard to stop, but could never completely eliminate. Is it true? Asked his work partner, Helena. Did the humans really fight back? The rumors say their entire fleet has gone silent, Gorix whispered. 300 ships, all missing. Around them, other workers were having similar quiet conversations. For the first time in decades, there was something other than despair in their voices. There was hope. On Earth, President Carter stood before the United Nations Assembly once again. This time, the mood was very different. 3 days earlier, these same people had been preparing for humanity's possible extinction. Now they were trying to understand what their victory meant. The immediate threat to Earth has been eliminated, Carter announced. But we cannot assume this is over. Aliens will eventually send more ships. How long do we have? Asked the representative from India. General Kelly stepped forward. Our intelligence suggests it will take them months, possibly years, too. Organize another invasion force of that size. But when they do come back, they'll be prepared for our tactics. Then we need to make sure they never get the chance, said Commander Foster. She had been invited to address the assembly about humanity's next steps. Her uniform still showed scorch marks from the battle, and her left arm was in a sling from when her ship had been damaged. What do you recommend, Commander? Carter asked. We take the fight to them. The galaxy is full of species that hate the collective. If we can free some of them, we'll have allies for the next war. Dr. Rodriguez. who had been working around the clock to study captured alien technology, agreed. The wreckage from their fleet contains enough advanced technology to improve our ships significantly. We can build better weapons, faster engines, stronger shields, but where do we start? Asked the representative from Brazil. Foster activated a holographic map of nearby space. Intelligence data from the captured ships shows us the location of collective slave worlds. The closest one is Keth Prime, where they've relocated the entire Vexani population. 2 weeks later, Captain Rick Turner stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution as it dropped out of hyperspace near Keth Prime. Behind him came 50 other human ships, all equipped with technology captured from the Talharian fleet. Sensors detect a small garrison force, reported Lieutenant Kate Johnson. 12 ships, all light cruisers.
No! Battleships.
Apparently they didn't think they needed heavy defenses for a slave world, Turner observed. The collective garrison commander, Subcommander Yextel, was enjoying what he thought would be a quiet assignment when his sensors detected the approaching human fleet. At first, he could not believe what he was seeing. Humans. Here, how is that possible? Sir, they're demanding we surrender the planet, his communications officer reported. Surrender? 2 primitives? Open fire immediately. The battle for Keth Prime lasted exactly 6 hours. The collective ships, designed for fighting other collective vessels, were no match for human tactics. When the human ships began ramming attacks, the garrison commander quickly realized he was facing the same force that had somehow defeated the main invasion fleet. All ships retreat immediately, Yextel ordered. But only 3 of his 12 ships managed to escape. On the planet's surface, millions of Vexani workers looked up as human soldiers landed in their cities. These were people who had not seen their homeworld in 50 years, who had been born into slavery and knew nothing else. Gorix was among the first to meet the humans. When Captain Martinez of the 3rd Liberation Battalion removed his helmet, Gorix saw something he had almost forgotten existed. He saw the face of someone who was truly free. "You're really here," Gorix said in his broken universal language. "The rumors were true. You defeated them. We're here to take you home." Martinez replied through his translator. "All of you. No one stays a slave." The news of Keth Prime's liberation spread through the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in collective history, a slave world had been freed. More importantly, it had been freed by the same species that had somehow destroyed an entire Talharian fleet. Back on Corinthia, High Counselor Viren finally received the report from her reconnaissance probe. She read it 3 times before. She could accept what it said: total fleet destruction. No survivors. Human casualties estimated at 30%. Enemy tactics unknown, but highly effective. "How?" she whispered. "How did primitives with 50 ships destroy 350 of our best vessels?" Counselor Kethmer, who had been so confident 6 months earlier, now looked older and afraid. The probe's data suggests they used unconventional tactics. Ramming attacks, hidden weapons, coordinated swarm behavior. Ramming attacks? They sacrificed their own ships? Yes. But somehow most of their crews survived. We don't understand how. For the first time in her long life, Viren felt truly afraid. The collective's power had always come from their technological superiority and their ability to predict enemy behavior. But the humans fought in ways that made no sense. What about Keth Prime? Lost. The garrison was destroyed and the Vexani had been evacuated. Send reinforcements immediately. High Counselor, with respect, our commanders are refusing deployment. 2. Human-controlled space. Word of the Sol disaster has spread through our military. Out. Many officers believe the humans are too dangerous to fight. Within a year, the human liberation fleet had freed 12 slave worlds. Each victory brought new allies, new ships, and new knowledge about collective weaknesses. The freed species did not just thank humanity and go home. They joined the fight. The Vexani were skilled engineers who helped improve human ship designs. The Korthok were natural pilots who could match any human fighter. The Zilani had psychic abilities that could disrupt collective communications even better than human quantum weapons. Captain Turner found himself commanding not just human ships, but vessels from dozens of different species. All of them had one thing in common: they hated the collective and were willing to fight to destroy it. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Collective High Council," reported his communications officer during their approach to another slave world. "Put it through." High Counselor Viren appeared on the main screen. She looked tired and desperate. "Captain Turner, I am prepared to discuss terms for a ceasefire." "Terms?" Turner laughed. "Mean like the terms you offered us? 40% of our people as slaves? Those terms were standard integration protocol? Perhaps we can negotiate something more favorable for humanity. Here are our terms. High Counselor, release every slave on every world in your empire. Disband your military forces. Allow free elections on all collective worlds. Accept oversight from a galactic council that includes representatives from all free species. It's impossible. The collective cannot accept such terms. Then we'll keep liberating worlds until there's no collective left to negotiate with." The transmission ended. Turner looked out at the stars and thought about how much had changed in just 2 years. Humanity had gone from facing extinction to leading a galactic revolution. "Sir, we're approaching Denvo's prime," Lieutenant Johnson reported. "Intelligence says they have over 1 billion slaves from 20 different species. Then we better get them home. All ships prepare for liberation operations." As the human fleet moved toward another collective slave world, Turner remembered the words that Admiral Morrison had spoken 2 years earlier. "Every species you've conquered before had something to lose. We have all that too, but we have something else. We have a choice. We can lose everything and still win, as long as we stay free." Now Turner understood what the Admiral had meant. Humanity had not just won their freedom. They had become freedom fighters for the entire galaxy. The Talaharian collective had ruled for 2,000 years, through fear and superior technology, but they had never faced an enemy that fought not just for themselves, but for everyone who could not fight back. Within 5 years, the collective had collapsed completely. Their slave worlds were free, their military was scattered, and their leaders were in exile.